Dads are someone to look up to, someone to follow, someone to admire, someone to be proud of, and someone to brag about, someone to hold and someone to cry with, someone to learn from and someone to respect, someone to listen to and someone to talk to, someone to try and impress, sometimes rebel against, and someone, most of all, with whom to share everything this wonderful life has to offer. I am so incredibly grateful and happy that I can stand here today and tell you that I have had all this and much, much more with my dad, John Selvin. I have been blessed to have had John as my dad. To say I loved my dad would be an understatement, and to say I'm going to miss him would be an even greater understatement. I cannot begin to imagine not having Dad on the end of a phone or coming to visit me every year in the UK, or happening to be needing advice or help. Dad was always there for everyone, family, neighbors, colleagues or friends. He always seemed to be able to draw upon boundless energy. He was a very clever man, but was never afraid of having a laugh at his own expense. My dad was always there for Mum, to the point that he used to joke she was like the Queen. For 51 years, they have shared everything life can offer together. They were a great team, supporting each other in every way. My dad was hardworking, compassionate towards everyone, and deserved the success and rich life that he enjoyed. He taught me many things, but I think most importantly, he gave me and my brother the ability to know that if you really put your mind to something, anything is possible, and never to be afraid to give anything a go. His attention to detail and perfectionism was infectious, and once in a while could get him into trouble. Of course, he wasn't 100% good-humored. Like anyone, he had his little ways. He had a short fuse, hated inefficiency, bureaucracy, and hypocrisy. He was a real perfectionist, and everything had to be in its place. Today, he would certainly have shed a few tears to see how many of his family and friends have turned up to celebrate his wonderful life. He would have also been surprised, as he was a very humble man, and we were incredibly blessed to have had him. My father and I didn't always see eye to eye on everything, of course. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, and thought I knew everything, we had some real run-ins. My father was born in Sathangulam, but moved to Chennai, where he studied MA in Public Administration in MCC. He enjoyed music and especially loved Elvis and the Beatles. Due to his love for music, especially Elvis, he had the famous sideburns and the bell-bottoms. He loved driving his motorcycle and was well known by everyone as the guy in college with his unforgettable Enfield bike. I have many memories of riding on this bike, as my dad took the entire family on it everywhere. I remember either me or my brother had to sit in the front. Sometimes I was carried by my mum on her lap. Those are wonderful memories which I'm sure me and my brother Dayan will cherish. Those days, no policeman caught you if the family of 4 all traveled together on a bike. My dad loved reading books, and due to which I also got into that habit. I remember that my dad bought me my first children's book, Noddy, when I was 5 years old. He encouraged both me and my brother to read a lot. He wanted us to have the best of education, and especially he wanted us to be well versed in English, and so made sure we were made to study in the best schools in Chennai. I'm very thankful to him for that, as it helps me so much in my present life as a vicar in Wales. I remember an incident from our visit to Sri Lanka, which was something my dad and mum told us often. We had all gone as a family to visit the zoo in Colombo, and we were all staying the night inside the forest. The place we were staying was a place deep in the forest, and we were told it was well prone for elephants, tigers, and lions to visit. So we needed to be quiet, and if we heard any noise, we had to turn our hurricane lights off. It was pitch dark and late in the night when my grandfather, my dad's father, heard a noise. He told us all to wake up and sit in a corner together and switch off all our lamps. The noise was still coming, and we were all afraid. But there was one person who was still fast asleep, and that was my father. The noise that we all heard and became afraid of was none other than my father's snoring. We never forgot that incident, and that was something we talked about and laughed all the time, as my father could snore. A phrase I would use to describe him was, he was fiercely loved. The verse from Romans says, neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. That is the kind of love that describes my Father. One that is so deep, it's beyond comprehension. He was shamelessly authentic, a man full of integrity. And you could see that in everything he did, especially the way he ran his travel business. His motto for his business was honesty, integrity, and transparency. My dad took us to trips all over the world and in India. He was very actively involved in church and church activities, and was well versed in the Bible and loved praying and reading the Bible. He traveled all over the world with my mother, and together they traveled to around 175 countries. He has traveled to all the continents except South America, which he was supposed to travel in 2020 when the COVID arrived and put an end to his plans. In 2018, when I was being ordained as a priest in the church in Wales, I could see how proud I made him. He was very proud and talked about me to everyone he came across. He was so proud that his daughter was the first Indian woman to have been ordained as a priest in the church in Wales and had achieved something amazing in a faraway country. Every time he came to visit me in Wales, he loved coming to church with Mum to listen to my sermons and receive the Holy Eucharist from me. He made a lot of friends in Wales, and people loved him and his wealth of knowledge about the Holy Land, Israel, to which he had taken 99 groups. It is with deep sorrow that I have to say that my father was very unhappy and sad that he couldn't take his 100th group. Another incident I remember quite well is the day when I picked up my dad from the train station in my car in 2019 when he came to visit me. He was full of pride to see that his daughter could drive. He sat in the front seat and was watching everything I did. Since then, every time he came to visit me, he monitored how I drove and corrected me when I made a mistake or told me off when I drove fast. If I drove at 72 mile speed at a 70 mile speed zone, he was watching and would say, "You're going too fast, slow down." My dad's smile was infectious and something he never lost, even during the last couple of months when he was so ill and bedridden. He was confused and could not recognize people, which upset him quite a bit. I spoke to him almost every day on the video chat, And there were days he was clear and recognized me, and there were days when he could hardly recognize either me or my mum, or even string two words together, which was very difficult to see. The one thing that he could always remember was the hymns, prayers, and Bible verses. He never forgot them, even when he was so ill. If the vicar came to give him home communion, he was able to say the prayers and Bible verses without any difficulty. Nobody can be perfect, but my dad was as close to being the most perfect dad anyone could have. My dad's love was unconditional, as this is something I will cherish from his character and take with me forever. His kindness and generosity will be remembered by all who had the pleasure of knowing him. I would also like to thank my wonderful husband Julian for his incredible love and support for me during these difficult months. I am humbled by Mum's strength over the past few months and her ability to focus on the amazing life she shared with my dad and not dwell on what she has lost. I hope that through this, I can find strength from her example and be there for her whenever she needs me. It's impossible to summarize the life of a man who was so abundantly full of life. Someone who had his hands in so many things. He loved riding his motorcycle, loved walking, traveling, and he was a very active guy, and that never slowed down. But no matter how all in he was on whatever work project or hobby, nothing compared to his passion and deep, deep love for people, especially his family. Our grief is intense because we were all so close and we were so blessed to have spent so much time together. He wasn't just our dad, husband, father-in-law, grandpa, or brother. He was our cheerleader, caretaker, protector, and best friend. He was everything. There is so much more I'd like to tell you about my dad, as this is just a tiny glimpse of who he was. But there is one thing you cannot miss. My dad was the incredible, joyful, loving man that he was because of the God who created him. My dad fiercely loved the Lord. He studied the Word fervently with his men's Bible study. He talked with God daily. He was an active member at church, and he worshipped the Lord through his love for Christian music. The leader, lover, joyful man you knew him to be. That was because of his love for Jesus. His identity in Jesus is what empowered the way he loved us, the way he took care of my mum, and the way he shaped us into a family that knew God loved us deeply and that he was always, always, always in control. As I wrestle with my beloved dad's passing and question the timing of it all, there is one thing that I'm clinging to, and that is, I know that because of his relationship with Jesus, he is in glory with the Lord. As we enter these days ahead, please keep reaching out. Keep telling us stories about him. Help us find joy amidst our devastating grief by celebrating the legacy he leaves behind. Ask us to share memories about our dad. Ask my mum to tell you about her best friend and the beautiful marriage they shared. And may we all know that even in this unbearable pain, the Lord is present. And as Dad would so confidently say, even in this, God is in control.